Hey everybody, this is John Baetz with Kansas Pregame Football Magazine, and I am excited to launch something new this year. Many of you know me as the publisher of the football preview as well as winter and spring sports preview magazines. I also previously spent time as the publisher of some weekly newspapers, and I served as an assistant football coach at different places across the state. But something that I've always really wanted to do that has been kind of a personal dream of mine is to put together a high school football show. So we decided to do it. I got together with the people at Salina Media Connection, and here we are with the first ever Kansas pregame football show. I want to provide in-depth coverage of teams from across the state. We're going to look at top plays. We're going to look at top players. We're going to take a look back at some big games, and we're going to try to take a look ahead at some of the games. Even though, and I'm sorry I have to bring it up, even though COVID could be affecting those schedules this year again, and sometimes makes it a little bit hard to do previews if you don't know whether or not a team's going to play. But don't let that put a damper on anything. Here at the Kansas Pregame Show, we're going to do the best to talk about all the best that is high school football. So everything that we do at Kansas Pregame is made possible by our sponsors. Our magazines are free through our advertisers, and this show is possible because of advertisers. And one of those advertisers are the fine folks at the Kansas Traffic Safety Resource Office, and they'd like to tell you a little bit more about their SAFE program. Seatbelts are for everyone.
When we do our safe observations at our school, almost everybody is on their phone.
A lot of students at the school and even adults always need to reply to that text or email or phone call or whatever while they're driving.
Having everybody focus on the road would be probably one of the biggest challenges we have.
I'd like to see a lot more people pay attention to what's going on.
I always do my best to pay attention. I'm not on my phone. I don't think any text message is as important as your life.
I think a lot of people are on their phone while they're driving to kind of keep up a social image when really, in the long run, it doesn't matter more than your life or the life of somebody else.
And now we're going to take a look at some of the top performances from last week. If you haven't heard of Noah Hastert, it's likely because he plays eight-man football at Cair Paravel Latin School in Topeka, and he just doesn't get as much coverage as the CASA-sanctioned eight-man schools. In Friday's 60-14 win over KC Christian, Hastert had 6 catches for 132 yards with 3 scores, including an incredible one-handed catch where he snaps his big left paw up and pulls the ball out of the air. At 6'6", 220, Hastert is a big-time prospect at a very small school. Keep an eye on this big tight end who looks to have an opportunity to play at the next level. Bishop Carroll wide receiver Matt Holthusen had a great game in Carroll's matchup with rival Wichita Northwest last Thursday in Wichita. New Carroll starting quarterback Chase Marsh had a big night throwing the ball against Wichita Northwest, and a big reason for that was the catching ability of senior slot receiver Matt Holthusen, who had several nice grabs on the night, but none bigger than his 78-yard catch and run in front of 2 defenders. We also caught another almost big play where he stepped just out of bounds, catching an over-the-shoulder pass. Big 7 powers Holton and Nemaha Central matched up again to open the year, and for the second straight time it came down to an almost identical finish. Last year, Holton sophomore kicker Matthew Lears came in to kick the game-winning field goal from 20 yards out to deliver a 15-13 win for the Wildcats over the Thunder. Lears' first try was blocked by the Thunder last year, but a controversial celebration penalty would give the Wildcats a second shot at the win. This year, Lears, now a junior, would again be counted on to use his leg to deliver another Wildcat victory, and there was no controversy this time as Lears drilled the kick from 32 yards out as time expired to deliver the 25-24 victory. Wichita Northwest senior quarterback Jeremiah Moore had a great night running the ball on Thursday's loss to Bishop Carroll, and this was one of several big run plays on the evening. He had an excellent read and pull on the option, and the RPO fake pulled the outside defenders even further away from the middle of the field, making for another huge hole for Moore to cut back through. Moore had another similar run like this later in the game, and in spite of being visibly injured, rushed for almost 250 yards, but it wasn't enough to overcome the Golden Eagles. Lincoln sophomore running back and linebacker Caleb Goddard had a big game for the Leopards in their 46-0 season-opening win over Tescott, including this long run and an interception return for a touchdown. He also led the team in tackles on the day. Axtell's standout junior quarterback Isaac Detweiler started his 2021 season off on the right foot, dismantling the defensive-ranked Wheatland-Grinnell in fine fashion, including some fancy footwork and elusiveness in this scrambling touchdown toss to Eli Brocksterman in the back of the end zone. The Eagles downed the Thunderhawks 62-16. First-year Riley County head coach Eric Willimon got his season off to a good start using this 42-yard field goal by Colin Rankin to down an improved St. Mary's squad 17-14. Buhler was dominant on both sides of the ball and opening up the season with a 42-14 win over Goddard. Sam Elliott rushed for nearly 250 yards in the contest, and they also got this interception return for a touchdown from Matthew Eddy. Concordia running back Kean Miller had a big game against Wamego on Friday night. The Panthers won in 4 overtimes, and Miller took this 4th down carry into the end zone to tie the game at 40. The extra point made it 41-40. Chase County sophomore Brock Griffin had a big game for the Bulldogs Friday night with 103 yards rushing on 12 carries and 4 touchdowns, including the incredible effort on this kickoff return. Hillsboro senior quarterback Matthew Petusik put together this long run and laterals to teammate Jackson Hanshoe for an incredible score and a 50-22 victory over Nickerson. Hillsboro has a quality group of players this season and could make some noise in 2A, but matchups against Heston and Smoky Valley coming up soon will really let them know where they stand. Chase County junior Mitch Budke is one of the top players in 8-man football this season, and he shows why with this impressive bad snap broken play toss to Colin Monahan for 73 yards and a touchdown. And that's the top plays for this week in Kansas high school football. All right, now we're going to take a look back at a couple games I had the opportunity to take in last week. Wichita Northwest and Bishop Carroll matched up in one of the biggest games of the week last Thursday night at Wichita Northwest Stadium. Bishop Carroll and Northwest are perennial powers. Northwest trying to get to their 4th consecutive 5A state championship game. Bishop Carroll trying to edge their rival after losing 5 consecutive contests to them. Wichita Northwest jumped out to a 13-0 lead early behind the legs of Jeremiah Moore. They looked very good along the offensive line early. Jeremiah Moore is one of the great players in the state of Kansas right now, playing quarterback for them, but he did struggle throwing the ball. Bishop Carroll rebounded nicely. New quarterback Chase Smarsh looked good throwing the ball, and the offensive line definitely got better going against a very tough defensive front from Wichita Northwest that features big defensive lineman Nathan Carter, linebackers Darius Diaz and Jerome Reagan, and a nice secondary. Smarsh found Matt Holthusen early and often, and Holthusen made impressive catches against really nice coverage. Nothing to take away from the Northwest secondary. They did almost everything that they could, but Holthusen was in great position to catch the 2 long touchdown passes that he caught on the night. Bishop Carroll pulled away late, extended their lead. Northwest got one more score late. LJ Phillips played really well out of the backfield for Northwest. Jeremiah Moore made a valiant effort on an injured ankle that was noticeably had him limping throughout the course of the game. I think both of these two teams are going to get much better as the season goes along, and certainly are 2 of the best in 5A in all classes. You got to really enjoy watching these guys play, not just for the passion that they have for the game, but also because of the enthusiastic student sections they have, that both were going back and forth at each other with cheers all night. It was a great atmosphere for the first game of the season. hundreds of fans in the seats. We're able to avoid the weather in the area that canceled or postponed so many games that night, and was really happy to be on hand to take in one of the best games in the state of Kansas. That Bishop Carroll won 37-27, but no doubt we're going to hear more from Northwest before the season's over. Also had the opportunity to take in the Beloit and Marysville game on Friday night, a game that wasn't originally on the two teams' schedule, but due to COVID cancellations for both teams, they found each other at the last minute and were able to hook up to play on Friday night. Beloit installed a new offense in the offseason, not new by most standards. The full house, full tee, also known as the robust sometime. Andale runs it with great success. You just put three backs in the backfield and you line up and you just run straight at guys. And I'm told that Coach Gober at Beloit actually connected with the Andale coaching staff in the offseason and learned a little bit about how they run their scheme. And they decided that that fit the personnel that they had, especially with a big physical offensive line up front, led by Grady Seifert and Owen Eilert returning at quarterback. Did a nice job handing the ball off. Got a great game out of Benson Barrett. Got a good game out of Logan Aerosmith. A bunch of different guys touched the ball. They ran hard and they were very physical. Marysville has a nice team. Big linebackers, athletes on defense. Peyton Smith at linebacker, 6'3", 225, was a physical, hard-hitting, ran downhill, and did a nice job for Marysville. But Beloit decided that they were just going to impose their will on this team, and that's exactly what they did in the second half and pulled away. And Marysville just couldn't get their offense going. Quarterback Rook Williams was having a little bit of trouble holding on to the ball in the backfield out of their spread look, and they were trying to get the ball down the field some, but Beloit's defense did a really nice job. Good crew of linebackers, good secondary, all those kind of things. Beloit has an opportunity to be one of the best teams in 2A and is really looking like they could be the favorite to represent 2A in the state championship game, already seeing that this early in the season. Marysville, final score 22-6. Marysville had a hard time getting things going offensively, but I think they've got plenty of talent, and I think that they're going to have an opportunity to still put together a successful season. And Coach Dustin Hoyer's done such a great job at that program. I feel confident that they're going to make significant improvements from week 1 to week 2. And I actually think Beloit will as well. They're going to take a lot out of the fact that they were able to win a game with the physical style that they wanted to install. And they struggled throwing the ball, ran just a couple play action passes early, and I think they had a couple of interceptions. And so that's something that they're going to have to improve. But Marysville, it represents one of the best teams that will end up being on their regular season schedule this year without a doubt. Welcome back to the Kansas Pregame Football Show. I'm here with Brian Schamberg, the head coach at Bennington High School, and he is the first person who's going to sit in our hot seat. We're going to interview him and talk a little bit about his football team, his kids, learn about some of the things that they like to do, and talk about the big win that they had over Wakefield the other night, 56-8. Coach, tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, and kind of what your experience leading up to taking the Bennington head coaching job was.
Sure. I'm a hometown kid, I'd say. I grew up in Bennington, and I went to school there, and went away to college at Kansas State University, where I majored to be a biology teacher. So I'm a biology teacher there at Bennington. And I took my first teaching job in Sabetha, and at Sabetha I was assistant junior high football coach there for 2 years, and then from there I went on and came back home to teach at Bennington and coach, and so I coached junior high for 3 years with actually my junior high coach from when I was a kid. From there, David Gillett took the job at Bennington and brought me on staff, and so I coached with him for a couple of years, and we talked Jay Macy into coming back and coaching a couple of years, and so I was able to coach under Jay, and I learned a lot from David and Jay in my 5 years that I coached with them, and from there David moved on to go back to Neodesha, and so Jay took over at that point, and with me, and it was a super good experience. I'm so thankful for that time I had to learn under those two guys, and Jay decided to move on and retire, so I stepped up and took the spot, and so it felt like pretty big shoes to fill, but I feel like I've enjoyed it.
So you were an assistant to Coach Macy for how many years?
2.
2 seasons, and then you took over as the head coach.
Yes.
And so you started out the season last week and got a good win over Wakefield. Like I said, 56-8. Tell us about your team's performance. Maybe a couple kids that stood out for you, and how you felt about that big win.
Yeah, we had 9 starters back from last year, and so I feel like we learned a lot over the season last year, and things we could build off of this year. And I'm super proud of how the guys played Friday night. They played hard. We some of the mistakes we were making last year all season, we still made some of those mistakes, but we did less of it. We blocked better on the offensive line. So our 3 offensive linemen just played lights out, and we rushed for over 200 yards. Brody Merck, my senior tailback, he's had a rough 3 seasons leading up to his senior year. He played probably the most his freshman year, but he broke his leg, and then I can't even keep track of all the things that happened to him over the last 3 years, but he's finally healthy this season for his senior season, and he rushed for 286 yards on Friday night, and just had a great first night out, and it was a great team win. Everybody got to play, and everybody got some minutes, and we got all the young guys in too, so I was super happy about that.
I saw some of the highlights. It looked like you played very aggressive defensively. Tell us about who stood out on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, for sure. That was something that we kind of struggled with last year on defense, but really, the 2 kids that really stand out to me was Jawan Allen. He struggled last year at times, but he had an outstanding showing at outside linebacker. And our other outside linebacker, Caden Bauer, played great. And we're going to need, especially this week, we're going to need those 2 guys to have great games again. Playing Washington County, they run the option a lot. Taryn Andrews, he's a 4-year starter for us, and he's on the D-line. He kind of anchors that D-line, and just had a great night.
And Riker Green is your quarterback.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what he brings to the table. And he's a returning starter, correct? He's an experienced player. Tell us a little bit about Riker.
Yeah, Riker, he works hard. He's always trying to get better, and he struggled a little bit with a shoulder injury, but last year at the end of the season, and I think his goal is just to come back better this year and really just make good decisions running our offense.
And you run a lot of double tight eye, but you also can spread it out, get in the gun if you need to. Are you the kind of coach that likes to kind of have an identity? You want to establish the run, or there's some priorities that you have offensively? Tell us a little bit about your philosophy.
Well, we in the past, we always tried to fit our offense to the guys we've got, and I feel like with our offensive line, coming together and the speed we have, I think we can kind of do all kinds of things. And sometimes it might change week to week just on our opponent, but we just try to have our base plays and then just build off of those each week.
You know, I find in the modern era that there's so many teams that are running spread schemes, and they've got a lot of wide receivers, and it seems like you really, from one game to the next, you can see a massive change in what people are trying to do to you. And so I think coaching defense now is harder than it's ever been. You know, tell us, what are some of the challenges? We look ahead in your schedule. I know that there's Canton Galva and Little River, and they're going to do, those two teams do different things, and they're going to have different dynamic players. But, you know, what's challenging about coaching defense in the modern era against all the spread looks and things like that?
Yeah, it just seems like every year there's some new kind of crinkle that those teams bring, and they have great coaches, and the game plans from week to week, just the amount of formations you got to prepare for and the amount of different things that the athletes they have do, just it can be a little daunting, but it's also exciting, and to see the sport going the way it is. And it's always also fun to learn from those guys too. And
so I also think that and this has always been true, depth is incredibly important to be able to make a playoff run, things like that. Do you have some good young guys and second team guys that get an opportunity to play over the course of the season?
Yeah, we do. This is one of the biggest teams we've had at Bennington in a while. We got 33 kids out and 13 seniors. So I'm just hoping we have built some depth at some positions, and we're able. And Friday night, I think that helped a little bit because we had kids we could trust to go in there and be able to perform and give some of our other guys a break. And so it has been nice to have that. We haven't always had that at Bennington, but it has been nice to kind of have that excitement for football at Bennington and just have that many kids out and playing.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, we appreciate you taking a little bit of time out of your day and joining us for the first episode ever of the Kansas Pregame Show. We're glad to have you on. So that wraps up the first episode of the Kansas Pregame Football Show. I'm really excited to continue to do this over the course of the season. And we want to be sure and hear from you. So, like anything, the first time that you do it, you're going to learn from things. Okay? We want to be sure and get your video clips. We want to be sure and get your statistics. You can DM us. Twitter is our most active social media, so you can find us Kansas Pregame at Twitter, but you can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. You can find us online at kansaspregame.com, where we're going to have some new things coming out this season. And you can email us, kansaspregame@gmail.com, and send links to video clips. Let us know, give us suggestions of segments, things that you'd like to see, content covered. We want to cover kids from across the state, from all classifications. And as you know, if you read my column every year in the Kansas Pregame magazine intro, I want you all to let the coaches coach, let the officials officiate, let the players play, and be a great fan of Kansas high school sports. Thank you.